We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Engage.
This tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
Go!
Just one more thing.
I want to go to there.
Bitch!
The language. Unbelievable.
I love it when a plan comes together.
The fleet is being controlled by the Collective. The Borg are here. That cube is projecting a signal across the solar system.
Jack is there.
And the only way to save Earth is to sever that connection, no matter the cost. What began over 35 years ago ends tonight.
We are all that is left of Starfleet. Weapons ready for another run.
Hello and welcome to the Best Bits TV talk show, where we talk about a show on TV. This is Kevin, and I'm not just joined by Will, I'm also joined by Chloe. Chloe, how are you? Chloe is langers
This is great
at the moment.
Oh, listen, Chloe, here, speak. What do you think? Yeah. She's a big fan of Star Trek Picard Season 3, Kevin. That's all I can say. I'm going to be muting myself a lot during this record for everyone. But Kevin, how are you? And I do have a baby in my arms. That's what's going on.
You do. And it's kind of apt, really, because I was crying like a baby watching this episode, but we'll get into it. We're not just here by ourselves. We have a returning guest, and it's Dave, back from episode 5. Dave, from the Cinema Podcast, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having me back, lads.
Great to have you back, Dave.
Thank you, and lovely to meet you, Chloe. Classic Chloe.
Absolutely hammered. And for the first time on this run of shows, we're joined by a returning guest on the Best Bits. Just recently, he was on our Highlander commentary. It's Jamie Hannigan, you big Star Trek nerd. We had to have you on. How are you?
Hello. Thank you for having me and getting me to watch all the Picard Season 3 in the last 3.5 days.
Did you love it?
I enjoyed it.
You enjoyed it?
Yeah.
Well, look, I want to get everything you felt about the show up till now. Dave, the last time you spoke to us was episode 5, and before then, Geordie hadn't even been introduced.
That's right.
So
yeah. So
a lot has happened since then.
I think I covered my feelings on the first half pretty well the last time. I think I was really impressed with it. It surprised me. I was very pleasantly surprised. I thought it was it had some surprisingly good dialogue and writing. It was leaning into character a lot, and I was just really impressed with it. I gotta say, and you guys have been so positive about the whole thing. I feel I need to bring some negativity here, right? So I actually I wasn't as impressed with the second half of. And
Jamie,
I feel so bad because Kev said in a group chat that this was like the best thing that had ever happened to him, or one of the best things, and I was like, oh, I can't do this.
The best thing that's ever happened to me.
I got to be honest, right?
What went sideways for you in the second half?
So a few things. I think the contrivances that they had to kind of go through to get everybody together started to just grind me down a little bit. And it was clear that they kind of reverse engineered how to get everybody together. And it just all felt a little too
fantastic.
Yeah. And I was just like, I don't really believe that Geordie's here now. Because he runs a museum, and now we're going to take and it was all, I don't know, it was all just a little too neat. And then I think what I was praising it for in the first half, where they had space for character, and I thought that episode 4 is still I think the best one. When Picard and his son are connecting and all that, I feel like particularly this stuff with Picard and Jack really just took a backseat for episodes, and it did pay off in the episode 10, and I'll get to it when we chat about it. But I thought episode 10 was fantastic and kind of made all the negativity, I feel, worth it. And another thing that really bothered me, though, was I felt like Picard, there were some decisions Picard was making that I felt didn't feel true to the character. Like when Vadic is on the ship and he turns to Beverly and says, there's nothing left to do. We have to kill her. That did not feel like something he would do to me. I feel like he's a man that would be the absolute last. He wouldn't even do it, even if it was the last resort. He'd just find another way. And the other big issue I had was they're building up to this big bad the whole time, and I'm genuinely like, who is it? And I'm loving the changeling stuff. Vatic is a fantastic villain. And then she's gone, and it's like, aha, it's the Borg. And I'm like, fucking Borg again. And I'm like, so I'm just like, it just felt like this such an easy go-to, the Borg, right? And I know it ties into the legacy and all that. But so that's how I felt. Now, I will say that episode 10 was so fantastic, and I loved it. I cried, much like you, Kev, for the last 15 minutes, and so I'll forgive it.
I cried from the first moment where they were deciding that this was going to be a suicide mission. From then on, I was in bits because it was just so beautiful and tender. But
it was good, and look, and that's why I'm just going to park my nitpicks and whatever, and just acknowledge that this show as a whole, this season, I should say, was just intended to be, as you said before, a lovely send-off for these characters and this crew, and recapture that joy that we all felt and that love and affinity they have for each other and we have for them. And I think it did a fantastic job of that, ended on a brilliant note. So plot contrivances aside, I'm kind of happy that it exists, and I got a good, buzzy, lovely feeling out of it.
And Jamie, you absolutely loved it, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I think because I binged it, essentially. Like, I was watching like 3 episodes at a time. So for me, it was like watching 3 movies. Like,
yeah,
we're gonna run into Return of the King analogies later on, but
I saw people tweeting that, and I was like, "Oh, you miserable bastards! Fucking delete your accounts."
Yeah, I watched the first episode on I think Sunday night, and then I think I watched 2, 3, and 4 on Monday, and then Tuesday. What day is it now? I can't remember. There was one day. Anyway,
Thursday night.
I think some of the stuff Dave is saying about the reverse engineering, I would argue is screenwriting.
I would actually say yes, 100%, because there were many times throughout this where I was like so impressed by the writing.
Yeah.
In our professional opinion, you're wrong, Dave.
Well,
what do you guys know about screenwriting?
I will say the one thing that kind of threw me slightly was I thought it was slightly rushed, because episode 9, what was the one with Ro Laren? That was like one of my favorites. 5 or 4.
That's 5, I think.
All right, that kind of like that. When I watched them, it felt like watching 3 movies, and it did feel like the rhythm of them, and I mentioned this to you guys in a group chat, but the rhythm felt more like the best of the original movies, like the kind of the Wrath of Khan, the Voyage Home, the Undiscovered Country. Like, it had that kind of really fast but good character work, but very nimble, moving around, getting the plot moving along. Mm-hmm. And that's what I felt about the first half. And then the second, I was like, oh, what the fuck is the deal with this guy, with the Jack Crusher? Like, why is he having these visions? And, is it very convenient that, like, of all the people that they need for this thing, to whatever it is that they need to happen, happens to be Jack Crusher? And the thing where it's slightly, I thought they could have done possibly another episode even, was when they sort of reveal it's a Borg, and Jack Crusher goes out to seek the Borg in a really short space of time, and that was the thing about that episode 9, which kind of bugged me slightly, but then it was redeemed by the whole nostalgia implants again and again at the end of season 9 of like, oh, we're bringing out the big guns. We're bringing out the Enterprise D, and that's a very difficult. That was my only thing, was that it just rushed Jack Crusher's decision to like go out on his own.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Episode 9 is the one where I was a little bit more down on it than the others, and it was only after sitting with the episode for a few days where I thought, do you know what? That's actually a really clever plot, and they kind of just blew straight through it, where everyone was like immediately coming to the same conclusions, and it was a lot of exposition dumps, and it's a credit to the actors that they're able to sell this stuff. But I was still going like, okay, all right, okay. And I did miss the changelings, and I did feel the same as you, Dave, which was like, the Borg again? That's so neat. But I think that when you look at in totality at the story, it could only really be that, because it's dealing with legacy and it's dealing with basically Picard and his story through TNG. So it couldn't really be anything else. It couldn't really be Armus or the Dominion or whatever.
I was trying to think this through, like who is Picard's Khan, like, and
it's the
for
Borg.
some reason the first name
They wanted it to be Q. They wanted it to be Q so much. But
okay, you're now baiting me into saying the one thing which I detested about the entire thing.
No, let's wait till we get to it. Okay. Let's stay
because I think I said to Jamie, skip the post-credits scene.
Right.
Oh, there was a post-credits scene?
Okay, let me finish my thought, though, because I had to just listen to two guys neg the series. This has been...
I negged one small part of it. I know,
but I don't look at your children and say there's something wrong with that one. You know, so like... we got to have some boundaries here.
I'm sorry, Kev. I'm sorry.
So I am kind of flabbergasted that this show has worked as well as it has done for me. And for them to have made this as good as it is, it's many miracles on top of one another. And I thought the show was just exceptional.
Agreed.
And can I come in? Because
Will's back.
If you didn't notice,
Will's put the baby in the bath.
The baby's in. Oh shit! I gave it a pack of cigarettes and a lighter and a bottle of vodka. I'll be grand. Listen, we have been, I suppose, singing the praises of this show for
10 weeks.
For the entire 10 weeks now. And I was just thinking about it last night that we've gotten, and I don't know, maybe you've said this, but we've gotten 3 feature film movies here. This is a trilogy. In my head, you could easily have told these stories across 3 movies. And because each one has had a kind of a separate storyline, a separate arc, and somehow they've managed to bring it all together. All the little elements have just paid off so neatly and so nicely, but authentically. And I fucking cared. I cared like so many other franchises, like in a complete contrast to so many other franchises.
Doesn't it feel great to care
right now? Yeah,
I was like, oh my God, I'm actually invested. I'm going to jump slightly ahead, but from the moment where they realised that it was just them against the Borg in Jupiter, and that Picard was going to have to go down there, and it was just this portentous feeling of like, this is a suicide mission, and they all knew it, and they had these lovely little moments where even Troy was like looking at Riker, and it was like, this is the end, isn't it? You're not coming back. I thought, fuck, they really know
Riker got
what
2 of
doing.
those moments, didn't he?
Can I say about...
He had 2 moments where he got to say, like, going, you know, we had good times, baby, didn't we? And then he fucks off.
There was a moment... Do you want to... Actually, that moment really got me when they were leaving the bridge the first time. Because
I was sobbing.
Just looks at Troy because he knows she can feel his feelings. And it's like whatever he felt, she knew he could feel. And I was like, oh, that's beautiful. That's fucking beautiful.
Let's get into it. This one is written and directed by Terry Matalas. Terry, I doff my cap to you. If I ever meet you, I'm going to buy you a drink. The synopsis went, in a desperate last stand, Jean-Luc Picard and generations of crews, both old and new, fight together to save the galaxy from the greatest threat they've ever faced, as the saga of the next generation comes to a thrilling, epic conclusion. And it began, and I said this to you, Jamie, and I wonder if you guys noticed it, that when it began, and it was Anton Chekhov, his voiceover as the president.
Pavel Chekhov, wasn't it?
No, Anton Chekhov.
Sorry, this is because this is his son, right?
Son.
Yes.
Well, he mentions his dad, but then I was wondering about the timeline of that. Like, when... Surely...
I looked this up. He would be... the Chekhov from the films would be over 150 years old, which is possible.
That's possible.
But maybe not to serve public office.
Well, look at Joe Biden. How old is he?
There you go. And that's just the
Good man,
21st
Joe.
century.
The president of the United Federation of Planets, and I thought this is a great way to get back into this story where you are eased into it. But did you notice, Will is gesticulating, so maybe you did as well, that when they panned over the starfield, it was the same opening images as the title sequence to The Next Generation.
Yep.
Ah, very good. I didn't spot that.
And the other thing I got from this bit of dialogue from Chekhov was the opening to A Voyage Home, or The Voyage Home Star Trek 4, of that, or maybe that scene where they were getting the message
Where the
from
nuclear
Earth.
vessels?
Oh yeah.
Well, not about the nuclear vessels, but it just totally. I made a note of it. I said, "This is just like the voyage home. Wonderful."
It was nice to get him in there.
The subtext,
Go on.
it was lovely, but the subtext was, everyone approaching the Federation, like, we can't trust the kids anymore. They just don't know what the Star Trek is all about. We need the old generation to come
that made
in
me laugh so much
and save us.
They're attacking our younger generation. And to be honest,
specifically, it's the young people. The young people. They just don't get it. They just don't know what the rock and roll is all about.
And they all speak in one voice, and it's all wrong.
It's the children who are wrong.
There's a word for it. It's called juvenasia or something like that, where everything of the previous generation is completely broken, and that's what this whole show is about. It's basically about juvenasia.
Space dock is falling, and there was a few things about this that really caught me by surprise, and that was the special effects, where they really went all out. Whatever money they were holding back, because sometimes, I think you said it, Dave, that you were starting to get location fatigue. You felt like, are we ever going to get off the Titan?
I was so sick of the Titan around episode 8.
And I was like, yeah, just wait. But I think they were saving up some money in order to be able to completely go overboard with the space battles in this, because the special effects were incredible. But space dock is falling, and the data picks up on the Enterprise D's bridge that there is a ship that is broadcasting from Jupiter, and they go straight there, warp to it, and they basically find that the Borg cube is hiding in the clouds of Jupiter, and that is where the Borg Queen has been, which is
that's neat.
Convenient for her to be hiding there all this time, just up around the road from Earth.
No, didn't they say something about a trans-warp conduit that she had?
That's what they said.
So I think she's leaped in there from somewhere else she was hiding.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's how they move around the board.
Yeah, they're just a trans-warp conduit. It's classic.
Why can't we all have one?
You do if you put your foot down.
Surely we can have it.
And Picard says, what began 35 years ago ends tonight. And he really delivered that line. And I thought, okay, so what began in 1987 ends tonight. What were you thinking when you were in the midst of it?
I was excited.
That's great, Will. Thanks.
He's gonna die. I mean, that was like were you? I mean, you were all thinking okay, this is the last. They've already said how much that this is going to be the last episode. You were thinking waiting for Picard to sacrifice himself for.
Doesn't it add
Jack
to the stakes though when you think that they may not come back from this?
Yes,
so everything just
completely
feels so much.
I completely agree, because it made all of those goodbyes, and to Jamie's point, there were Riker got 2. There were a lot, and it made them feel far more substantial and meaningful, because it did feel like a good Game of Thrones episode. Like anyone could die at any moment.
Yes. Yeah, good point.
It looked beautiful as well. I just thought, oh God, this is so well shot. And the music, it was just enhancing everything. Meanwhile, Seven, Raffi, the doctor of the Titan, and 2 others, a cook, who I wish... Do you know when you were talking about, you feel like some things might have been cut throughout the season in order to keep the pace up? I would love to have seen a little bit more from that cook character, because as soon as he appeared, I was
great.
I love this guy. Yeah. I love him. He's so out of his depth.
He could have been a Neelix. That was the problem. And actually, if he was out of his depth, that would have been fine, because Neelix was a character from Voyager who just knew everything about everything. He was a jack of all trades. This guy was out of his depth going, I don't know how to man the vessel.
I would have locked Neelix in the turbo lift and been like, I can't get her up and I'm sorry. Send him back down to the maintenance deck.
And actually, I'm kind of irrelevant in a world of replicators. The job of cook is now, it's not necessary.
Well, so am I wrong that didn't Neelix get a kind of a lot more interesting as that series went on? Like, he started out incredibly annoying for 2 seasons and then actually got more and more.
No,
kind of like,
and when I'm on
certain
season,
amount of.
I'm finishing season 5, and he's getting more interesting because he's gotten less screen time. he's just not there to be annoying.
Seven, Raffi, and the doctor of the Titan, the cook and another bridge officer, they take back the bridge and they beam the crew into the transporter room and they lock them in there. And then they realise it's just them up against the entire fleet of the Federation, which is just unloading on space dock. And I was, as I said, really into this Cook character. I don't know his name, but I would have loved to have seen a little bit more of him throughout the season.
Can we talk about the transporter guns? Because they were brilliant.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'd adapted rifles to transport people.
If you're going to shoot people and like hostile intruders and transport them somewhere, would it make sense not to transport them to anywhere else in the ship than a transport room? Yeah, but you transport them to the brig or something. I mean,
I think it was only transporting it back to the transporter, as in they're only capable of like transporting it back to transporter.
Yeah. The headcanon, goes that way.
It was like a boomerang thing.
I was like, really? You're going to transport them to a transporter room? I mean,
if I was there, I would just
something about that feels a bit
transport
weird.
them out into the dark, cold depths of space and let those young uns meet their face.
Yeah, and then Seven says to Geordi, sorry.
Die.
They don't know what the Star Trek's all about.
Out there with their TikToks.
I'd miss them. They were all nice. I liked all those young ones. I was sad to see them Borgified.
Yeah, I was kind of attached to all the side characters. One thing I really did like in that Die Hard episode with Vadik was...
I like that you said that, because I used that reference.
I mean, I probably heard it from you, to be fair. Yeah. I kind of did feel an affinity for all of those characters. They kind of gave them all enough screen time and a few little incidental moments that I did kind of care for the bridge crew towards the end, who are now, of course, the Enterprise crew.
Yeah.
I like them.
Bit of a demotion though for it to become the Titan. Like they had the Enterprise F, which looked like a much sleeker ship. Like
was that was the Enterprise F?
Yeah, I wondered that
was poor old or AP Shelby's. That was her vessel. It got blown up, did it? Or
I don't know if it got blown up, but she got killed while sitting in the captain's chair.
She did see. Yeah, that was. It's nice to see her again.
We saw the Enterprise F. It was. And Will didn't recognize her. So
and the Enterprise E, they kept on making jokes in the last couple of episodes back about, oh well, of course we can't use the Enterprise E because Worf fucked it up. And I was like, really? I don't remember. Didn't they ram Tom Hardy's ship?
That happened.
It's off screen, I think.
Oh, okay.
He became the captain of the Enterprise E after Picard retired, and there was something that happened which is classified, and it's in some sort of canon, some game, something. But he was the captain.
And it's been like, I should probably go back on what I've seen of, because I watched all the Next Generation several times, and then I watched the first 3 Next Generation movies, and I couldn't, because Nemesis wasn't on. They pulled it from Netflix when I was about to go watch it. And it was the one that I hated the most.
Yeah, you're right.
And I saw I hadn't seen it since the cinema.
Yeah, it was miserable
back in day. And my memory was that he destroyed another Enterprise. Like they crashed into Tom Hardy's ship.
Didn't destroy. They crashed it. They rammed it.
No, the Enterprise survived.
It wasn't destroyed. They definitely rammed it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, good for them.
Because they all toasted Data's death at the end.
They lost the data. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, great.
And lore. Even Data's moments in this were great. But so they've decided that Picard is going to go down there, and when he turned around and he gave that look to all of them and he says, it has been an honor serving with you.
Yeah.
I just thought, he's not coming back from this. This is him doing a swap. It'll be me for Jack.
I'm actually super impressed that the show didn't kill anyone. I thought that showed some restraint to me, because it was actually the better ending. It's the more, and it felt more
who's on your
consistent with the
Deadpool list
the original show.
For who's going to live and die? Because I had Worf at the top of like Worf's going to buy.
It's because of me.
Thought Worf was going to go.
Terry Matalas said at the beginning that he wants to give the TNG cast an undiscovered country, and I thought, well, he's going for a really celebratory ending here. But then when I saw the trailer to episode 10 and so many of the characters looked overwrought, Data and Troy crying and Crusher sobbing, I thought, oh, he's gone. He's definitely gone. There's going to be some great sacrifice. And I thought that's going to be a bit too much like Nemesis again, like ending with a funeral.
Or Wrath of Khan.
Oh yeah, I've never seen that one. Yeah, they had me on the edge of my seat. They beam down. So Riker says he's going with Picard. He's not leaving him go alone. And
Worf's like, "Oh, you're all going to get killed."
One of his great one-liners. Worf goes, "And I'll make it a threesome." Like, do you even hear yourself? I love that they were bringing in like all these little moments of humor in amongst all this pathos and sort of suspense.
Like, genuinely, Worf has got is the funniest character in. It's as funny as he ever been. And not before we get to it. Actually, the funniest moment with Worf is the final scene or one of the last scenes.
Beautiful.
On the deck.
Yeah.
We won't get
So-
there.
I laugh. I literally laughed out loud when that
My
happened.
two funniest.
It's a bit like Scotty like hitting his head off the rafters.
Oh yeah, I know the shit like the back of my bonk. Yeah, my always favorite, the comedic pairings in the original the TNG series. The best line came off between the combo of Worf and Data, and they never got that combo in this series. I'm not saying. I think they both got great stuff. Well, I'm trying to remember, but most of the, like Data's best, like some of his funniest, best lines. Like one,
It was hilarious when Data dressed down Worf, where he said, "I want to see you in the ready room," and he said, "When I am giving orders, I expect you to follow them, and if you can't fulfill your duties, then I will remove you from the bridge." And Worf was like, "Huh, understood." Wasn't funny, but you know.
the ones I was thinking of, there's one in, I think it was season 2 or something, where they're doing some kind of war game bullshit, and then they get like ambushed by a Ferengi vessel, and they're talking about this plan where we're gonna like, oh, we've got this like shitty fucking ship, and we're gonna pretend we're gonna warp at like 1 speed, but it's gonna look like the Enterprise has destroyed it. And Data's just this thing where it's like, you know, we're going to fire the torpedo and then we're going to warp just before it impacts. And if we're off by like, you know, half a millisecond, the results will be, he does a little pause like, unfortunate. And Worf he's on the ship that's going to have the torpedo shot at it, and he's like, very unfortunate, we will be dead. And then there was another one where he's babysitting for Data's cat Spot, and Data's goes a whole long list of all the things he has to do for the cat, like, and if he's feeling bad, you have to stroke it and blah 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 blah, and he just goes on for like at least a minute, and Worf is just like holding the cat like, I will feed him. Hey.
When they realised that he was funny, you got some great moments with Worf. When it was his birthday and they put him like the hats on him, or the episode when he is in an alternate reality and he's in a relationship with Troy, and she's in his quarters and she's making herself, you know, quite at home, and he's like looking at her like, what are you doing? And then she's sitting on the bed, tapping the bed, and he just leans into shot, like looking at her like, what's going on here? Always made me laugh. Anyway,
he's great.
Awesome. Picard says to Crusher, I need you to lead me to our son. And the three of them beam down onto the Borg ship. Great lines in this. Picard goes, you don't leave the doors open if you want to keep the wolves out. It appears that all the Borg are zombified, that something has been feeding off them in order to stay alive. And they managed to make the Borg even creepier, I thought.
Yeah, I thought that was excellent. I was like, again, there's great world building, great logic going on in the mechanics of how everything's operated. From my point of view, all I know is that Borg apparently have been gone for a decade, but they were defeated.
Which I still don't understand.
Right? But this individual has been surviving by using the drones to fuel the power supply, which is wonderful. I think it's that, you know, feeding off your own flesh. You know, I think it's fucking cool. It's really, really.
I thought
cool.
the makeup design on her was very good as well. It was really creepy and great to have Alice Kriege back.
It wasn't her.
So she was only doing the voice.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Oh, just the voice, was she?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, I thought she looked a bit different. That explains it.
I find that interesting for an actor to come in and sort of like mimic the way that another performer has delivered the lines, to sort of make your voice fit into their gesticulations and their mouth movements. But I guess they just didn't want to have a 6-year-old Alice Krieg like hoisted up 30 foot in the air and wrapped in rubber.
Yeah, fair enough.
So it's like,
although they're happy to have Picard, 80-year-old Patrick Stewart, wandering around.
I think that's him. I think he wants to do all that. I heard that they shoot all his stuff out by lunchtime. So he shoots in the morning till lunch, and then they send him home. So yeah,
in a wheelchair.
in the back of a taxi.
Or because in the evening he skydives in the evening. So that's why he has to get all this stuff done in the morning. The man's busy.
I will say,
there's a line here I love that Worf had when, like, you know, Riker and Worf and Picard are down there and they realize they have to split up because Riker and Worf are saying, there's a beacon, we have to go find the beacon, and Picard is going, no, Jack is right underneath us. I'm going to go down, we're going to split up. And they basically kind of have a really, really poignant moment of saying goodbye to each other. And Worf says something like, you know, there's 2 words Klingons do not use or do not know.
You've skipped over one of the loveliest lines, which leads up to that, which is that Picard says, I can no longer be your captain. I now have to be a father.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
Yes.
And it's the way that they're delivering these lines. They really sell them. And then Riker says something like, you don't need to say it. You never need to say it. I was like, oh, they're getting
This is
me
when
here.
I started tearing up. That's when it started for me.
Yeah, it's
And what did Worf say?
And that's when Worf, he says, there's 2 words that Klingon never uses, defeat and farewell.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's how he says goodbye.
Great Worf stuff.
Yeah.
So I love it. And this is a moment where I wrote in my notes, it actually kind of feels like they're going to kill Picard. And it's like when it feels like they're going to kill Picard, I should have realized they're not going to kill Picard. But I actually wrote.
No, I thought it was going to happen. And then it was down to just Beverly and Picard, where she was talking him through it. And he says to her, everything you did was right. And I thought, oh, they're really going for the feels here, and it's working on me. And then we see that Jack is the Borg prince, I suppose. And behind him is a monstrous Borg queen.
She emerges like an alien figure. There's a shot there that just reminded me of an alien emerging from Aliens or so.
Yeah, they went heavy into the H.R. Geiger makeup. Like, she's much more biomechanically grotesque than I think you've ever seen her before. Like, in the various iterations.
Yeah.
She looked really
She was super creepy. Yeah.
And I'm glad they did, because throughout the previous episodes, I kept wondering, okay, who's the mysterious hands hologram figure that was talking to Vadik and all that sort of stuff? And it was her, just a deformed head. And that's why she didn't look like herself or a Borg. So, it worked for me.
7 and the Titan crew, they pick up that the Enterprise D is nearby, and 7 decides we need to buy them some time. So they're going to reuse the cloaking device that was installed to fight the Shrike, and they're going to strafe the Federation ships which are firing on space dock. And this is when 7 has her big moment, because the cook is going, I'm not equipped for this. I'm not a pilot. And she's like, what was it? She says something like, you're a pilot, and now you're our pilot. You've got this. And then she rallies all of them, and they're all looking to her, and it's like, yes, 7 of 9 is a great character, but she's like, I'm not asking you to give your lives for nothing. I'm asking you to fight for what's below, your families, your children. The Borg have taken our crew, taken our captain. Take your time there, Jamie. Okay, now.
That was water. I'm afraid. Sorry,
Jamie. Are you planning to do one of those glass rim choruses?
It's like ASMR there for a second.
I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I'll continue. But in this moment, here and now, we are all that is left of Starfleet. It is up to us. And it was getting me like hyped up. I was like, fucking hell, they're really going for it. This is like, on every level, it's like at maximum, it's at 10. The stakes are so high. Mm-hmm. And they cloak and they go for it.
Look, give Jerry Reiner credit. She fucking delivered those lines. She absolutely delivered that speach, and I was there with
radio
her. I was like,
to that.
yes, bye.
Incredible.
I know. And
Death
beyond the grave. Let's not go.
That's a joke for all our international listeners.
I gotta say as well, like I felt I was worried in the last episodes as well, in the previous 4 or 5, that 7 had been kind of sidelined. But they really paid off her character in this episode really well, because not only did we get that ultimate really nice and emotional final scene with her, but I think they earned it by showing that she has what it takes to be a captain in these scenes, and a fantastic captain at that.
She's a really interesting character in that she feels wounded and tempestuous, but also level-headed and kind. So there's sort of like so many levels that she plays, and she's a fantastic actress. She was hired because they thought, she had a
easy on the eye.
She looked great.
Say it.
But yeah, easy on the eye.
There you go.
But no, she's a fantastic character and great actress.
Yeah.
They cloak. Meanwhile, the Queen is taunting Picard, and she says the future doesn't lie in assimilation, but evolution. Riker and Worf, meanwhile, are seeking out the beacon amongst the graves of the Borg, and the Borg Queen says to witness your future's end. And that's when we see that they unleash on Space Dock, and it is... The special effects in the scene was incredible, but it's like going down. Riker and Worf are attacked, and there was a great few beats here where Worf's got his cutlet sword, and he is like doing his typical TNG stuff of just slamming into the fellas till he gets shot. Yeah. And then Riker goes to pick up his sword and is like, oh shit, the weight of it, he couldn't pick it up.
These things are really fucking heavy,
like,
right? I mean, like...
No, I'm going back immediately. I'm like going, okay, how many characters have I seen training with those backlets?
This one is a different one. It's not a cutlass like a pirate thing, but it's something like that.
I was
going to give him a different sword.
If you had the Klingon name for that, his short sword, I was going to give you a prize there, Kev. The backlet, I thought we all knew.
I think it's a cutlet.
Let me look it up.
Is what they've called it.
In the post.
They redesigned it. And he Riker can't pick it up, and he's like, no, the hilt, and he removes it. It's an old phaser, like a TNG phaser. He's like, you had this all the time? It's like, swords are fun.
He had two really good lines back to back there. That was the second. The first one was something like, I think they're like, oh, we're going to go on this like a certain death mission. He was like, oh, I was really worried there that we weren't going to die today.
Yeah. He said, I was worried we might actually survive.
That's the one.
They also had a nice moment where Geordi says, Crusher's are tactical, and he says, I didn't install the weapon system, so you're going to have to manually do it. And she's like firing torpedoes and phasers, and she basically gets direct hits right across the board, and all three of them turn around and look at her. It's like, a lot's happened in the last 20 years. So in the middle of all this heaviness where you're thinking, they're fucked, they're managing to like crack these jokes, and it's not feeling like jarring, these tonal shifts, but it's actually just
little moments.
It makes you care so much more for them.
Fucking important.
But can I just say as well, and I think you called this out in a previous episode, Will, what I really appreciated about this series is that the humor felt consistent with the humor from 35 years ago in TNG. It was just broad, fun, light-hearted comedy, unlike what we saw in Discovery and some of the recent Trek shows.
Where they're yucking it up.
It's just... Yeah, it's all wry, sort of clever, sort of. I don't even know how to describe it, but yeah, it's just
sitcom-y.
It's sarcastic and sick. It's just, yeah.
These characters don't think they're funny. They're saying things that feel.
Can I go
as an outsider
on a
looking
tangent
at them?
here, just as relation to those shows? Like the reason that we have that enjoyment and we like the humor with this TNG characters is a lot of the fact is that we spent so much time with them. I mean, we and on a larger sense, I start wondering about like how much of this is tied into that, and rather, the Discovery they did, some of the episodes were pretty good, but I never really warmed to the characters, even though there was some good characters in there. I never really quite clicked with them, and
it felt smarmy to me.
A lot of it did, yeah.
Smarmy's a good word.
Yeah, a lot of it did. I haven't seen the Strange New World show. No, I've heard that's pretty good, but no one's seen it.
I'm going to give it my time just because this one has far exceeded my expectations for it. So I don't know how much of that is down to Terry Matalas. Obviously, this is the show where he got to completely control it, and he wasn't involved in Picard season 1, and he came on halfway through season 2 to sort of wrap that up. I will say I'm not like clamoring as some people are for Star Trek Legacy, even though I liked where it ended up, but I wasn't sort of like thinking to myself, fuck, would this be appointment telly for me?
Is that the Janeway one, is it?
No, it's what some of the people involved are hoping will come from this, with Seven as captain of the Enterprise, that crew. So it would pick up from them.
Okay.
And it's called Star Trek Legacy.
If Terry Matalas is involved,
he wants to be.
He's pitched, or he's got a pitch for it, but he has or hasn't. The difficulty is that there is a Star Trek Legacy game which is what confused me as well, because there is a computer game called Star Trek Legacy, and that is confusing slightly. But his one is essentially, we'll call it the Star Trek Legacy, is a follow-on of the adventures of Captain Seven and Counselor Jack Crusher. We're going ahead of ourselves here, but that's the ideal future plan. And he has had no meetings about this. Like, he doesn't know what Paramount's plans are.
Oh, wow.
But Paramount are making a lot of fast and loose moves at the moment. They've cancelled Discovery, and they have switched the Section 31 thing into a feature-length event rather than it being its own show. The one with Michelle Yeoh.
Did you read?
Maybe they're making room for Star Trek Legacy.
I'd heard that apparently Alex Kurtzman, who's doing handling a lot of the Star Trek stuff, had said that the story goes he knew that Michelle Yeoh was going to get a lot of heat, and they weren't going to have the time with her to do a series, and so it was refashioned into a movie. It seems an odd choice to me, but
yeah, well, someone else can do that podcast. The Borg break out of the transporter room and they destroy the cloaking device, meaning that the Titan can no longer do much. It's dead in the water. The walls are closing in. Picard realizes that he now has something to go back to become the cutest again after spending half his life running from it. So he basically logs on to the Borg to go after Jack. And meanwhile, Geordi and the Enterprise have figured out that there's a pathway through the Borg ship, but it's an impossible flight path because they're going to have to Independence Day it. Go right into the bowels of the ship.
Lando Calrissian
They had to return to the Lando Calrissian, Millennium Falcon, that shit. That's what they had to do.
Although Lando had a much easier route. That was pretty much just a straight line.
His ship was also
like
fucking tiny.
Yeah, there were a few
the Enterprise is fucking huge. I know the Borg ship's big, but
yeah.
Do you know what I did love was that shot of how
hole.
small the Enterprise was compared to the Borg ship.
Yeah,
that was great.
It was super cool.
Anyway, I'm just talking of Will to get away from Star Wars.
I loved Data. Listen. I'm so
Data.
bored of Star Wars.
Are you Pulaski? It's Data.
Listen to me. You fucking nerd. I love it when Data says
it's Data.
When Data says, my gut tells me I can do this. Please, you have to trust me.
That was
this
great.
scene.
That's great.
Yeah.
Because
it's brilliant.
It's Data relying on his humanity.
Yeah.
And he's saying, trust me. I thought this is just wonderful. They're giving
this is
him
stupid,
moment.
but trust me, I think I can do it. And he does.
I loved it.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Isn't it wonderful how Data has
Don't call him Data.
how he's like, how they've realized his humanity, and in very simple and like economical scenes. We've seen it with him touching Picard's shoulder in the previous episode.
That was lovely.
We've seen him with fucking Spot. We've seen it. Just there's so many these beautiful human moments.
The way that he says "can't" no instead of "cannot." Oh,
yeah,
they did it.
So beautiful.
Did it. Contractions. He's got a positronic brain, but he could never do contractions. I love that scene, and it's all building towards something. And I was looking at the runtime on the episode and going, fuck me, they're flying through this. Like, this is really coming to like what would feel like the final 10 minutes of a movie. And
can I jump in again at the end of that scene that you love with Mr. Data, Deanna Troy, and he takes off. And Troy says, why am I sensing enjoyment?
Oh, yeah. And he's grinning. This maniacal grin.
Just like, this is brilliant.
Do you know they screened these episodes in the US at the cinema, and people were coming out saying that there was lots of laughter, there was lots of sniffles and cheers. I could imagine this playing like gangbusters with a crowd that would dare to see it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I'd say
brilliant.
Great energy, I'd say.
Yeah, bastards.
And then while Picard is in this Borg matrix, it's all come down to Picard basically opening himself up, being able to accept love. That if he can accept love, then humanity can be saved. And that means him having to be vulnerable with Jack. But meanwhile, while that is going on, Geordi turns to Crusher and says, look, we have only one shot at this, and we can take the shot, but it means killing them. And then they say to Worf and Riker, did you hear that? And they're like, yeah. And Riker won't go back to Troy. He's going to stay there. What's the line that he says? Troy goes, Will, the moment we fire, you'll have a minute to get out at most. And he says, I owe him a lifetime. At least I can spare us a minute.
That's some great lines here. Do you know what I really liked about this bit? Was that Geordi, who has nominally been given command here and is kind of running the show, he gives Beverly the space to make the decision,
to consent to it.
Yeah, it was nice.
Exactly. I thought that was lovely.
And even more tragic, she's on tactical.
She's the one that's going to have to fire. But Will, do you remember when we said on the Star Trek movie podcast that we did that this is what we wanted, but it was going to be Will Wheaton, and you said the only problem is Will Wheaton. So they have managed to solve that problem. But they've narrowed it down onto personalize the story. It's taking First Contact and making it so much more emotive and emotional because there are real stakes here. It's family members.
It's convincing me we should be screenwriters someday. Someday.
I can't wait.
Well, instead of taking the two most famous Star Trek TNG season finales and kind of like the Best of Both Worlds and the All Good Things and kind of like mashing a lot of them together, like a lot of the stuff from those season finales is kind of like fed into this, and a lot of stuff from the original series movies too.
What I love though is amongst all this chaos and all this action was that if you just cut to Troy, you knew exactly what she was thinking and what she'd been through and what her relationship was with Riker. You didn't need to continue spelling it out. It was like, we get it. And with Crusher and Data having his humanity back, it all just felt like they'd done a really good job of weaving through all these little arcs for these characters and paying them all off really neatly and elegantly in this final episode.
Yeah, I texted you, I think, and I was in the middle of texting because I suddenly remembered this. I was trying to remember like the moments for all the different cast throughout that last finale, and I was like, what was Troy's one? And then I remembered her.
Oh, it was a great one.
You know, I know where they are, but it's also built up on Riker's.
Yeah,
he says this thing, but you know what he's thinking, and he's like, "Oh,
I love you, Imzadi. We'll be waiting, me and our boy."
You can feel the emotion, and then when you cut to her back on the Enterprise, she's just obviously, I know where they are. Like
but it was so well edited,
it's so well set up, so well edited, and I was in the metro to collect my kid from creche, and I remember this, and I just had this lump in my throat, just like getting onto the train. I was like, I just could hold myself together here for a second. It was a very strong moment, really, really good. In the middle of it,
I think credit to them for, because they not only paid off every character with 35 years of history, and then gave them all moments in this show, but they gave them all like moments with emotional weight. Like everyone got an emotional moment in this episode without fail, and it also didn't feel too crowded with 7 characters.
Listen, it's no easy feat. It's like doing a juggling act while doing walking a tightrope while, I don't know, doing jumping between trapezes. It's fucking incredible. It really is incredible that they've actually put it. Yeah, while on
and punching yourself in the balls,
playing a kazoo. I was the same. I joined Starfleet to find the family I didn't have, and I found it. I let them in, and this is all when you feel like Picard is going to die. But there was always a barrier. I too thought there was something wrong with me, and I waited in that vineyard, waiting to die alone. But now, Jack, I realise you were the part of me that I never knew was missing.
I watched this film, Road to Perdition, years ago, and I was like, yeah, it's fine. It's grand. I quite liked it. It looks lovely. I watched it again just after I become a father under kind of trying circumstances, and I was in tears at the end of it. And Picard's line there, that part of you that you didn't know was missing, is a very it hits home. It hits home. It's a weighty line. Obviously, he's Patrick Stewart's got.
Well, as someone who doesn't have kids, I didn't really give a shit. Anyway, Picard says to Jack, if you won't leave, I'll stay with you. And Jack, realizing has someone in his corner, which is the thing he's been looking for all his life, is what breaks the barrier for him. And it's that connection. The Borg are all about assimilation, and what it's come down to is that human connection.
Can I just say, though, I completely agree
with the Borg gear
with Jamie. I just like we should all be the same. It would just be a lot easier. Although on that note, I liked that they acknowledged the attractiveness of it, like how Jack described it as, you know, it's quiet here. I feel peace. You know, that
I feel supported.
I admired that they did that. And They supported exactly. But I agree. I thought this moment was really beautiful. It got me really badly when Picard says that line. It felt very touching, and they'd earned it from their earlier work building up this relationship. But something was nagging me, and then I realized it afterwards. And it's just to your point, Kev. It's like they're saying Jack has come round. He's got someone in his corner, like you said. Here he is. He's finally got it. And then I realized, like, what about his fucking mom? It's like he's had someone looking out for him for 20 years. What about her? And she had kind of got no role to play in this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, she had 20 years to play. You know, just all the.
She does have a role to play, and the role is her hands on the proton torpedoes,
about to destroy him.
She's about to kill him and his.
And she's thinking of every time he talked back to her, every time he pissed her off, every time Picard was playing away on that fucking planet. I could just fire this torpedo and be done with the two cunts. These two fuckers have ruined my life. And Troy is looking at her going like, I know what you're thinking. Actually do it. Sisters are doing it for themselves.
That's the ending we needed.
I know what you're saying, Dave, but I think in that moment they're leaning into the fact that Jack, all his life, he has had this Borg. He has had this calling to the Borg and has always felt alone, always felt apart, and it wasn't. And he's saying, "Oh, you weren't there. I finally have someone in my corner." I just think that's what they're leaning into, and kind of like not negating.
It comes down to an embrace.
It's just like this,
and it got me. It was pretty much similar to what they did with Data and Lore, but in that moment he pulls himself free from the Borg, and Picard needs to be separated, or Jack needs to help him get separated. And we think it's over, and Riker says that line, which is that I love you, Imzadi, we'll be waiting, me and our boy. And what I loved about that moment, I know you got choked up, Jamie, but for me it was like, it was the thing that Troy was trying to control, the grief that they had that was driving them apart. It was that when he invoked their son's name, that sort of bond between them just was so powerful that through all the chaos, it just joined them. And she was like, I know where they are. And she rushed to the comms and flew that ship in. And she did a fantastic job of like swinging that thing up.
And I could feel the writers, like when they came up with that like link, they were just like, there was a big high five in the room. They were like, she's like, she knows who she is because of the dead. They dead kid, yeah.
It always works though when they use Troy in that way. But
the dead kid high five.
I don't want to diminish it. It was a really good
moment.
I don't want to make it sound silly, but I really liked it. I really liked it.
But what's nice and elegant about the storytelling here is like I was incredibly moved by the Jack and Picard scene as well. Incredibly moved. But what's lovely is that flood of emotion carried nicely into the Riker Troy moment, because they nested together quite well. Sometimes you can have two moments that are jarring, they don't fucking work, but this just flowed into each other, and it was just like, you're caught in the same
loveliness,
riding that same wave of emotion. It's great stuff.
What I also found great about this episode, and really just about this whole season, is that if you were to remove any one of the core crew, the whole story would fall down. It just wouldn't work, and the mission wouldn't work. They were also vital in their own ways. So, you know,
is this why the films maybe didn't work? Because you can only get moments like that, and you can only really parse them out between about like 2, 3, 4 at pushing it 4 characters at most in a feature film.
Yeah.
7 you
100%.
can make work in a feature film.
Yeah.
That's what William Goldman says.
But I think the core thing I feel was wrong with the feature films is that they needed
It was just
to,
Picard data, and all the movies.
for all the elements. Yeah, but they needed for all the elements, from the protagonist, antagonist, and all that. That's why I was proposing. I said, "Oh, you should make fucking Wesley an antagonist in one of these stories in some way.
Personalize
make it to center it in on Beverly and personalize it more." But when you're introducing an external villain, there's a whole lot of baggage. You have to waste time setting all that up, and that's time you're not spending with your main characters.
Kev, you were saying this earlier. The problem with Picard and all the movies is that he's generally just fucking angry, and you don't see.
Yeah, they made him an asshole.
Yeah, you don't see either lawyer Picard, which is personally my favorite Picard, or diplomat Picard, and it's like
I like Beauty Queen Picard. My personally,
I like Malibu Picard. Malibu Picard has the lovely car.
Lawyer Picard is like, he's fun and he's angry and he knows the fucking line of the law, and you're like, Jesus, that guy's got a fucking point. And Diplomat Picard is similar, but in a softer kind of the Prime Directive kind of way. And those movies generally do not lend themselves to either of those Picards. Like, they want the fucking action.
If they'd made this story in the 90s, Picard would have had a Tommy gun and he would have been shooting the shit up at Jack and his army of Borgs.
The line must be drawn.
I just think.
Yeah.
I agree with Jamie. I'm actually a fan of that's Picard to me, not the
Same
action
here.
hero Picard we got in the movies. But that's the conflict between it's a movie, so it's got to have big action and spectacle. That's what people turn out for. But it's like, no, actually, I would have turned out for a sort of a thoughtful courtroom drama versus is Data a human being? I'd have watched that for 2 hours.
For me, it felt like the TNG crew had to go back to television to get their proper send-off, and it just helps that they've gotten a movie-style budget for this, because this felt massive at times and a lot bigger than some of the OG movies. Can I flag up
one of the 2 things that?
Hurry up, because we've got about 62 endings to get through.
One of the endings that I did not like was the ending of the Borg Queen. That particular shot I thought was a little bit goofy, where she's like, "No," and it looked a little.
I loved it.
It was a bit Darth Vader in Revenge of the Sith.
It's just,
all of the Borg drones, they return to normal, which is I'll give it to them, because
convenient.
the Borg are the ones. I know, but what else do you want? Do you want?
Yeah.
What I would have liked was to see a bit more of a battle going on with the Federation ships, but I guess that would be another 20 million.
Can we ask how many Federation either ships or lives? Because they mentioned specifically earlier in the season, 11,000 people died at the Battle of Wolf 359. How many people died at the Battle of, what are we calling this? Frontier Day? Or
Yeah.
Okay, so how
Battle
many
of
people?
Space Dock.
I mean, anyone under 25, turned on their elders.
I counted about 50 odd, so that's all. 50 odd died. Everybody else.
Space Dock was destroyed. Space Dock was destroyed in this.
It seemed to be intact. They went back to it a bit later.
Was it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was down. They said it was down, so maybe
it was exploded. It got better.
It took some beating.
They built it back in a year, though.
Yeah, it really did.
It was a
year. The Borg destroyed the crew that were about to storm the bridge of the Titan. They come back to themselves. Seven embraces Sydney. Picard brings Jack onto the bridge. Everybody has their little moments hugging each other, and one of the big laugh out loud moments for me was Worf goes over and sits down beside Data and Geordi. He sits in Councillor Troy's chair and he immediately falls asleep, and I loved it. I lost it.
I lost it. It was great.
Yeah.
Can you have a combination of crying and laughing at the same time? I had both.
It's the best kind of crying.
I was laughing. I was crying because I was just choked up, but then I was laughing because of that fucking joke, and I just went, "This is it. This is perfect. This is the best scene of the year. Best scene of the year, hands down."
The bit that really got me in this sequence was weirdly the Seven hugging Sydney, because there was this look of fear and panic, and then that I thought the actress playing Sydney portrayed really well, and this realization of what she'd done, and then 7, you got the full weight of Voyager and everything in that moment, where everything that she'd been through, and she saw that in Sydney, and that embrace. I thought it was really, really.
I need to correct the record on one thing, because I said on an earlier episode to you, Will, I said that both of the LaForges were played by LeVar Burton's actual real life daughters, and it's not. It's only one of them. It was Alandra is LeVar Burton's real daughter. Mm-hmm. Picard says, "Welcome to the Enterprise." They have a beautiful flyby with the Titan. Crusher becomes an admiral, and then we have another really moving scene with Tuvok and Seven are reunited, and Tuvok shares with her Captain Shaw's officer report prior to the series beginning, prior to the writing system when they went to help Beverly. And in it, he says that she's brash, she breaks all the rules, but the rules, I think, need to be broken. That
she got the right stuff,
but she's loyal, she's brave, and he's recommending her for captain. It was lovely.
And he's dead.
Is he though?
I know.
Fuck.
He is.
He's got to be dead, right? Yeah. I mean, he's got to be dead.
But it was the perfect way to end his story when you think of what defined him was surviving on that maintenance deck and getting on a shuttle, and then his fate was to help those that were going to defeat the Borg get on a shuttle.
I felt his death was a little rushed in episode 9. I thought I found it didn't really land for me, and I was such a fan of his character. But this really landed, seeing him as a hologram. So his I felt his death here a lot more.
Mm. That was the one. What's the word? Yeah, I suppose that is the death of the show. That is. We're all grieving for Shaw in our own ways.
Ro Laren for me was a big one.
Yeah.
That was a big hero's moment.
R.I.P. Shelby. Jesus. I mean, she was one of the heroes of Wolf 359.
Then we pay off Raffi's arc, which might not register for people just coming into this season, but she was sort of a down-and-out character in the first 2 seasons of Picard. She was estranged from her family. She was a former drug addict. But Worf went behind her back, and he released all of her classified Valor commendations to the media so that everybody would know she was a hero. And I thought that was lovely.
It was nice.
Yeah.
I don't have any affection for Raffi, unfortunately.
I liked her in this moment when
not having
they're calling each other warriors and stuff.
Yeah, not having seen any of the other Picards, I didn't really know who she was, other than she's like a badass grandmother.
She was Raffaella.
Yeah, but she's a badass grandmother. That's what I know her from. Like I didn't know anything other than that. She's a grandmother. Well, she can kick ass.
It also paid off Worf.
But her granddaughter is stock footage. Did you notice that?
It did look like that.
Oh,
God.
It was like, stock wave footage to your grandmother. Also, did you notice that when
it's like
Jack is in his quarters, he holds up like a premiere photograph of Gates McFadden and Picard, where they were at like the first contact premiere or something.
I like that. Yeah, that's funny.
It's weird.
But they paid off one nice thing, which was Worf initiates a hug with Raffi.
Yeah, it was good.
And he was resistant to them all along. So it's like these little tiny moments where you can tell that they're like thinking about these things.
You see, and the reason I like that scene is because we get more Worf. That was the reason I liked it. Worf in sound. I like Worf. It's great stuff.
Worf doing a hug when he says like I need personal space is it's an easy laugh. It's good. Good stuff.
Yeah.
I've gone past one of his lines, which was that he said something about weeping as one who's never wept.
I assume you are being like, you're being you're being strong by weeping. I wouldn't know, of course, what being a Klingon and all.
The Enterprise D takes its place at the Fleet Museum. They initiate a shutdown maneuver. The 3 guys say that what did I say? We would have been different if we weren't on the ship, certainly, but certainly not better.
You skipped over the scene with Troy and Data having the session.
I did actually, yeah, which was very funny.
I fucking love that scene.
Data is so human that now he's in therapy.
And he's gone an hour over his time. A lot of time.
TNG moment in the whole thing for me. That was like the moment like TNG that really leans into that like let's have like a moment where like Troy is like, oh Jesus fucking Christ, this guy's gonna go on for another hour.
And she's scrolling through holidays, looking for holidays. So that's great stuff.
I said it on one of the prior recordings that I didn't realise how much Troy is integral to the vibe of the TNG crew. That if you don't have Troy there, it's a very straight crew. But she brings this goofy earnestness, and then Data being so childlike, they have a great rapport. But it was funny.
And you want to know what I wrote when Riker's at the door and Data's leaving and stuff like that, and just a quick little human exchanges between them. I literally wrote, I'm in love with these characters. I'm in love with these characters because I just love them.
Yeah.
I really and truly just felt the affection, because it was the affection I felt that the actors had for each other in this moment, and the creators had in writing these characters in this moment, and it just translated right out of the screen into my eyeballs and into my heart.
Well, they're genuine friends outside of the show, and it's the only Star Trek company where they've all gotten along. Like Voyager had its problems, DS9 did, Enterprise did, and the original series did. But these guys are like, and you can feel that they just have chemistry. Jack is now in Starfleet, and his parents are taking him off to college, or what it feels like to me. And
Isn't it?
yeah.
It's so cute.
And he's nervous.
Little 24-year-old.
Well, he looks more like he's going to 35.
Like let's overlook this. Like yeah, he's not 35. He's probably 20 something. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
And he's going to be serving on board the Enterprise, which is the rechristened Titan, and it's the Enterprise G, under Captain 7 of 9 and First Officer Raffi. Go on.
I genuinely started shedding tears when they announced that they were renaming the Titan.
Did anyone think it was going to be called the Picard for a second? Because
I did.
I thought so too. But then I was like, in honor of you, and I was like, oh Jesus Christ, they're going to call the ship the USS Picard. I was like, and your crew. I was like, okay, that's going to be a bit weird if you call it Picard and company.
But I felt it was. What choked me up, I think, was a feeling. It's just a feeling of this reunion, of this appreciation, of this love, and it was overwhelming. It was genuinely overwhelming for me, and I don't know why specifically. I just loved it.
Yes, I agree entirely. And then we go back to your favourite set, Will, of the entire season, back to Guinan's bar on Earth, and all the guys are basically hanging out, and we wondered how they were going to end the show, what they were going to do, and you said playing poker, and that's what they end up doing.
Called it.
Before that, though, Picard gives a speech from Julius Caesar, a Shakespeare speech, and yeah, they're just having a little reunion and just hanging out, and you get to see the characters just enjoying each other's company.
You know my other alt ending, that other one I was thinking about before I started watching today. I went, oh, you know what I would like?
Sex Planet. They go back to the Sex Planet.
No. if it was just if it was the morning breakfast meeting between Beverly and Picard, with all the rest of them joining.
Oh yeah.
Where's Laris though? Where's Laris? Laris is Picard's girlfriend. She was in episode 1.
Orla Brady,
the Romulan.
Oh yeah. What happened to her?
She got fridged.
This is Gene Roddenberry's projected future, where sex happens freely between all kind, kin, and species and races.
I don't know.
They feel like exes.
About that
Picard and Crusher feel like exes that are just really good friends with each other, and they share a kid. But
I want to see more Orla Brady. I saw her for as I've mentioned to you, I hadn't seen any of the Picards, and I was like, oh, that's Orla Brady. What's she doing with like pointy ears? Oh, she's with Patrick Stewart.
She died heading back to her home world.
But
the cell's moving off.
It was strange not to see her at the end.
I got one last laugh out of Worf as they were playing poker, where he slammed the table and went, I fold.
That actually would be me.
He cannot contain how grumpy he gets. And yeah, we leave these characters that I've been watching for the entirety of my life almost, happy in each other's company, just laughing and playing cards. And I thought it was beautiful, and that's where it ended. There was nothing else that came after it, just the credits.
So switch it off straight away.
Guys, fill me in. I didn't stay for the post-credit sequence. What happened?
The post-credit sequence was Jack in his quarters on the Titan. He puts up that picture on his desk, and it's Beverly and it's Picard in their premiere outfits. It just looks very wrong. It looked very 90s, the makeup and the tux that Patrick Stewart is wearing.
It was fine.
And then Q appears behind Jack and he says some bullshit, which is like the test of humanity was done for Picard, but it's only beginning for you. And then they end.
Oh.
And I was like, oh.
In your new show,
Star Trek.
Commissioned by Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
I have never ever liked Q. He's my least favourite character. Christ, Q again. No. Anyway.
He's
my final thoughts on this show, and then I'll throw it to you guys.
Yeah, all right.
Because we're coming up in an hour and 20 minutes. This has been a gift for me. I have just absolutely reveled in it. I went into it skeptical but hopeful, and it just rewarded me continually for 10 weeks. I've loved watching a show on a week-by-week basis as well. It's totally turned me off binging stuff in the future. This was a fantastic finale. I'm so glad that they went all out for it, and they really loved these characters as much as I love them. Can't really fault it. It's little missteps here and there. It was just superb, terrific. Anybody else? Okay, so Star Trek Picard is out.
I mean,
it's late. It's late.
Do you know what, Kev? Do you know I've loved listening to you guys talking about this week in, week out, because it has made your love for this show has shone through so much that it made me love it even more. Even when I was doubting Thomas and I had my reservations, but the finale, the show as a whole, the season, because I hated the first season of Picard and then I didn't watch the second, and what a miracle that they managed to turn 100%. It around, not only like fix this show, but then give this a send off for this crew that is one of the best season finales I think I've ever seen, and as you said, Will, it's a juggling act. So, fair play to Terry Matalas, and I really appreciated watching something with so little cynicism and such pure joy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's as you say, Dave. It's pure joy. I didn't see the first two seasons. 99.5% because of Kevin saying do not watch the first two seasons. And
the extremes between what I felt for the first season of Picard, which was my most detested show.
It was your most, but I remember, Kevin, it was your most looked forward to show. Like, I remember us texting before, and you were like, this is my new Star Wars. This is my Jesus. This is my Jesus. This is what I need. And your disappointment was so profound that I avoided the first two seasons of Picard, and I only got into this one because of your fervor for it. And I have to say, I'm glad I did, because it was a really good. It was a palate cleanser of Nemesis, which was not a great movie, and the movies were not great. Most of the TNG movies were not great, but I loved that show. That was a really big part of my. It was a big part of my life back then. It was important, and it was great. It was really well done. It was a very interesting way they balanced that nostalgia, but also how do we make this interesting. I don't know. Yeah, I really liked it. It really hit home for me. Thumbs up.
Will, what did you think?
Yeah, for me, I've said it on this series before, but I've been on a journey with Star Trek since COVID. Like yourselves, I have a deep affection for the Next Generation series from when it originally came out. But since COVID, I've been on a deep journey with this series, starting with the original series, onto TNG, DS9, Voyager now, and reading that we've done the Star Trek movies podcast, which was brilliant to revisit them all. At the core, the Star Trek works for me when they get the core cast, that family, working well. When there's a beautiful balance, whether it's Kirk, Spock, and McCoy in the original series, but in the TNG cast to balance this core. How many is it? 5, 7? I don't know. What's the number of that? Just
7.
This family. 7. And for them to pay that off, it's just beautiful. I just feel it's cathartic. I feel it's, I don't know, in a weird way, it's kind of like almost Because this is closing a chapter from COVID for me.
It does.
And,
I'm ready to die now.
I adored it. And I also want to say, this is the first time we've done a watch-along series podcast, and by Christ, were we looked out that we
really
a
did.
Show that has been so wonderful.
And it's been grueling for us, like, because this is the time when Will has the least amount of time available. You heard it at the beginning of the episode. But we stuck with it, and it just paid off for us. For me, it did anyway. It was such a wonderful experience to share this with others, and to, as I said, it felt like being loved bombed by the show. It was just rewarding me for my affection for these characters and for the history of the show. And after 35 years to have a finale that good, it was excellent. So there's not much more I can say. This has been a fantastic experience. I've loved revisiting these characters, and I've loved being able to talk about it with you guys. And
same. Thanks for coming along, Dave and Jamie. I just checked your names.
Picard, as we say at the end of all of these episodes, is available to watch on Amazon Prime and on Paramount Plus. And for us, if you have listened to these shows independent of our other podcast, you can listen to more from me and Will, and sometimes Jamie, and hopefully sometimes more from Dave, over on the Best Bits podcast, where we talk about movies. I'm not finished talking, Will.
Sorry.
Where we do other stuff, which is quite good.
And of course, you have to, if you're listening to us and you haven't heard Dave on his wonderful podcast, which he does with his wonderful wife Kathy, it's called the Cinemile Podcast. It's a wonderful podcast, and they're a great pair. I vicariously am going to the movies via them, listening to them review their movies on their walks home or their travels home from the cinema.
I'm so sorry, Will, because we don't go to any good movies.
Like vicariously going to this.
No, Dungeons and Dragons you went to, and it was quite good.
That was very good.
Great,
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, listen, it is very late here, and for you, Jamie, it is even later. It's 12:30 at night when we're wrapping this up. But my God, lads, 1987 to now. I never thought when I kneeled in front of the telly at my nan's house watching Encounter at Farpoint that 35 years in the future I'd be sat here thinking, how the fuck do I wrap this up and get off mic talking to three fellas on a computer? Here we are. The future
that says
is
more about
amazing.
Me.
Listen,
what's the escape phrase?
I've loved it. Love talking to you guys. Hope you're all well out there. Take care. From me, good night.
Thank you very much, Kev. Good night. Good night, Will. Good night, Dave.
Good luck. Take care. Thanks, everyone.
Kevin,
good night, everyone.
Out.
And here is a clip from the lads' latest Mini Bits bonus show. The full episode, plus 80 more, are available on their Patreon.
See ya, Mossy. I gotta go in and record another one of these fucking Mini Bits.
Oh, yes, this is all it is.
I know.
What are you doing?
Right now, on the Academy screener site, and I hit play because there's only a few films on it for the first month or two. There's only like about less than 10 films on it. And Guy Ritchie's The Covenant is on here. So I hit play on that, and I'm hearing we're out in Afghanistan, and I'm hearing all the dirt, and I hear vehicles, and I hear the sound effects of characters walking. But when characters open their mouths, I don't hear any dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
there's no dialogue.
They've uploaded the wrong audio track. It's like that Tom Cruise trailer where it was just the sound effects.
Have you met an SP?
Yeah, and this film's been up on the screen site for a few weeks now, and they still have the wrong one here. Well, I tell you what films are actually up there for all Academy members to see, and they see what they've put up there.
But first of all, let's just throw to our theme. And I have to say, the feedback from my thank you ballad was quite fierce.
The power of Christ compels you.
So I asked Mossy, who is a friend of my dad's at the quiz,
Sing us a theme tune.
Oh.
So, over to Mossy.
Hit the cards. I'm fine, I'll get it done in one take. It's the Many Bits. Or podcast, what will they say? With Will and Kevin Cock.
The best fucking podcast.
That'll do.
That'll do.
My God.
Thank you, Mossy.
You would make an angel weep. That voice would make an angel weep.
Telling you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Boolabus.
It only cost us 2 months patron money, so, you know.
Is that all? Money well spent in my eyes.
Yeah. I mean, you can't get much for €20. Will, you were telling me before the intro that you were looking at stuff on the Academy Screeners website.
The Academy Awards. So for official members, yes. So they don't send out DVDs anymore. So how you do all your streaming stuff is all via the Academy website. And the streaming season has begun, which is exciting. So it means for the rest of the year...
Did it ever end?
It does end. It does. After the Academy Awards, there's about 2 weeks, and they take all the films down, and then they begin again at the end of August, and they all start coming up. So it's a whole new collection of hopefuls.
So how many films are on there?
Right now, about 10. Actually, 10 exactly. I can tell you the 10.
Oh, go on, tell me.
John-Wick 4.
For the Oscars. Oh, because there's like...
Yes, they're adding in stunt category, aren't they?
Are they adding it in? Is the stunt category being added?
I believe they're adding in some sort of stunt category.
Breaking news straight from an Academy member's mouth.
Because they're adding in stunt category, aren't they?
Slash film.
I don't know. Did I read this in an article? I feel they were.
I
felt they were.
Have long overlooked stunts, and my God, it's pure artistry.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly, well, these days, it's all fucking rubber computer generated avatars.
That's why we should highlight, that's why these people should be getting their Oscars when someone's actually gone out there. Yeah,
go back,
absolutely.
Go back and give it to your man from Mad Max who broke his legs.
Give it to Richard Farnsworth, who was a stuntman and starred in The Straight Story. Yeah, Richard Farnsworth was a career stuntman.
Oh.
Absolutely.
Wasn't that also the case with Machete? What's your man, Machete? Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo.
Is
really?
It Trejo or Trejo?
I always call him Trejo. He just says, call me Danny.
I was going to say that back to you.
Nah.
I was like, just that.
Weird.
Because we just call it.